So this is kind of like a ramble all over the place, just a random update. But I noticed I was talking to a friend, mentioned his channel before, Eric Jennings. And we were talking about settings on these Fujis, and he basically said his auto ISO dial on his X Pro 3 was on auto, but or custom or whatever, and he couldn't change the ISO with the command dial. I thought it was really weird because that's the point of that custom position, the C position, and it looks like he had changed some of the settings for the basically the custom buttons, and you couldn't change the command dials. I don't know if he actually had it wrong or he just clicked it and not realized it. But out of the box, I don't have an X Pro 3 with X-T4. Every push of the front command dial will cycle through. By default, there's three different settings, and one of them is ISO, but not all of them. And I guess he had clicked into the second one or something for the controlling with the command dial, and he figured that out. But it made me think, I found it kind of annoying that because I used movie optimized control, as I mentioned, on the X-T4 to control movies instead of using the ISO, shutter, and aperture dials and rings. But it was annoying when I would make changes because often I had to click a couple things. One thing, I think the ISO was on one of the three settings on the front command dial. So it was like aperture, you click it in once, and then it was, I think, exposure comp, so the EV, and you click it a third time, and then it goes to ISO, and then click it again, it goes back to aperture. And then the back command dial was set to shutter speed. And that didn't make any sense. Or is that not ideal for my setup? Because generally the shutter I always have the same. I don't change that unless it's like totally critical, because you want to have it, unless you're out like really bright sun, you want it set to the same value for whatever the frames per second. So because I'm doing 30 frames per second, 29.97 or whatever, I do 1/60th, and I'm not going to change that unless I am at really bright light and I don't have NDs. Shutter speed is kind of like something I'm not changing much. EV I basically am never using in movie. I use the EV exposure comp dial a little bit in stills, but I never use EV in movie. So to me that's sort of a waste. And then aperture, I kind of set it to what I want to film at and then leave it there. I really don't like to change that in video, especially while filming, because you can see it's kind of ramps and steps with Fuji. The iris doesn't close and expand kind of smoothly, so you can really see the jumps. Really, the only thing I'm changing a lot is ISO. So what I did is I changed it so the front command dial is only two options, and I'll do a pop-up to kind of show this of the back of the camera. But I have the front dial to control only shutter speed and aperture, and mainly I just leave it on the aperture. And then I shut off EV, so there's no third position. I have the third position as none, or third click to not do anything. And then I have the rear command dial only as ISO, because that's the one I'm changing all the time. So I'll quickly figure out what ISO I need based off my key light and the ambient light. If I have the lights on in the room, it's not needed right now because of the daylight coming in the window, and with my key light it's enough. Or I don't know, whatever, depending on what I'm doing, I will adjust. The ISO is always the main thing I'm moving, so to me that makes sense on the rear command dial, and then I'll just adjust the front the aperture on the front dial if necessary. So I've kind of gotten that squared away. If you watch that movie I posted a while back, I still think they should save these controls as far as the actual setting of what aperture and what ISO, what shutter you have, so that way if you shut off movie movie optimized control and go back briefly to the actual dials and rings, then it remembers what it was. But we'll see if Fuji ever thinks about something like that. But yeah, I kind of want to just mention that because I had made that change and then haven't filmed the video since until today. Something else though, so unfortunately, my father passed away earlier this week, and my brothers and I are going through, dealing with that and, coping with it. He's been, getting progressively sicker for years. He wasn't that old, but he's had a lot of what we now call comorbidities, and just all of his organs having issues, and he's just been getting sicker and sicker, and it kind of fell off a cliff after my mother passed away some years ago, and he's sort of like a part of him died with my mother passing, and he's just been on a downhill slide, and it's really sad. He passed away, and I mean, it was like we knew it was coming, but it was unexpected. As far as we thought we had days to weeks, and it turned out to literally be like a couple days, and it was really hard. I brought my children to see him, and it ended up being a whole nightmare with the paramedics called, and I thought he was dying that day. He ended up making it a few more days, but it's really sad. Yeah, it's kind of we're dealing with everything, planning the funeral, the wake and the funeral. We got that squared away, trying to get a place for lunch kind of after, and it's hard. I think about you want to share something, or I would often send. I don't know how much he was watching them lately because he's been really sick lately, but before he passed, but I'll watch a YouTube videos. We have had shared interests as far as cars and watches and knives. He was really into pens too. I never got the pen bug like him, but I want to share video, and I'm like, oh, he's not there. It's tough, and now I don't even have any parents on this on this earth with me anymore, and my brothers don't either. So it's just me and my brothers left, and obviously we have aunts and uncles and cousins. We have one grandmother left, but it's kind of a significant impact on life, and just been kind of going through that for the past week. So it's kind of why I haven't really posted anything, but I would like to record some more content and get some stuff out there. I gotta use this camera more. I feel like it's burning a hole in my pocket. Dropping in the money on the X-T4, a month plus back, and then I was initially originally hyped about it and doing a lot. Posted a ton of content after not doing that for a while, but I kind of scaled back. But hopefully I'll get back with it. I did get another tripod mount from my Manfrotto tripod. That way I'll just leave this one on. It's a different material. It's more like a plastic than a metal, so it feels lighter, and hopefully it's less of an issue. So yeah, hopefully more to come. That's kind of where I've been. Talk to you guys later.